Wendy, it's bedtime. Pick up your toys and hop into bed. Please go to sleep, Wendy. Grandfather was the babysitter for the evening, and he would have much rather been playing checkers. Go to sleep, Wendy. Wendy was 4, and she had an answer for her grandfather. It was an answer carefully thought out, complete, and final. No, not until you tell me a story. A story? I'll sing you a lullaby instead. They're shorter. Grandfather was still thinking about his checker game. Come on now, Wendy. Grandfather will sing you a lullaby, and then you'll go to sleep, won't you? Probably not. Besides, you don't know any lullabies. Tell me a story instead. I don't know any lullabies? Huh! I'm the fellow who invented lullabies. In fact, I invented music. What do you think of that, young lady? Wendy laughed. The dolls laughed. And the people painted on the wallpaper laughed. And Gobo, who was an elephant, laughed so hard the stuffing nearly came out of him. Please, Wendy, you'll never go to sleep if you keep laughing. I'll never go to sleep if you try to sing, Grandfather. Tell me a story. Tell me how you invented music. Well, once upon a time, about 4 million years ago, the world was a dark, unhappy place. The sun rose hopefully every morning, changed his mind, and went back to bed. The birds didn't sing. They had nothing to sing. The bells didn't ring. They had nothing to ring. Nobody could dance. There was nothing to dance to. No drum majors pranced. There was nothing to prance to. Nobody whistled, not even at a pretty girl. And worst of all, the children never went to sleep, for there were no lullabies. So they just cried and cried and cried. Now, in this unhappy time, there lived a great inventor, me, your grandfather. I'd invented lots of good things for children, like dolls and scooters and lollipops and chocolate milk. But still, they weren't happy. I tried to figure out why. But the kids cried so much that I just couldn't hear myself think. So, one day I decided to go out into the woods to build a new house where it would be quiet. I took my bow and arrow, got into my car, and drove out to the edge of town. Well, this looks like a good place, I said. But when I started to chop down a tree with my axe, there was a funny sound. I hit another tree, and there was a funnier sound. And then I hit a bunch of trees. And it sounded so good, I said to myself, if trees sound this good, what will happen if I hit this big rock? Pretty good. Think I'll try another one. Even better. Now another one. Think I'll try them all together. And so, while I was at it, I just decided to go ahead and invent radio, too. I had a busy morning. I hit around on sticks and stones, and before you knew it, I was on the track of inventing music. So I rushed home, hung out my sign, "Inventor at work, do not disturb," and started inventing as fast as I could. First, I invented the flute. Next, the oboe. But then I decided it would take too long like this. I'd better invent them in bunches. Clarinets, bass clarinets, and bassoons, I said, get invented. And they did. And after the woodwinds, I invented the trumpets. Next, I invented the French horns. And the slide trombones. And finally, the tuba. Reckon I better change that a little. I guess I wouldn't have invented the strings at all if it hadn't been for the old tomcat howling in the corner. Here, kitty. Nice kitty. Come here, kitty. And before you could stuff cotton in your ears, there was the violin. And the viola, and the cellos, and the basses. But that wasn't all I needed. I had to have sharps and flats and pizzicato, molto lento and staccato, treble clef, retired repeat, allegro chord and boogie beat, major, minor, jig and waltz, scherzo, downbeat, jazz and schmaltz, jukebox, drumstick and Puccini, bassoons, batons and Toscanini. And when I put them all together, I had music. Now, All this inventing had made so much noise that people gathered from miles around. And since they all looked like they wanted to stay for supper, I had to figure out some way to get them away from there. So I said, "Abracadabra!" But they didn't move. Then I said, "Hocus pocus!" But they stayed right there. And finally, I had a big idea. I said, "January, February, March!" And sure enough, the first music my instruments played was a march. But then something terrible happened. For when the people learned to march, somebody started a war. And the only way I could think to stop it was to invent dance music. The dance music stopped the fight all right, and everybody had a wonderful time dancing. But they got so tired dancing, I had to figure out a way to let them rest. So I invented the symphony concert, complete with a scowling music critic on every row. But you know, even with the birds singing and the bells ringing and the pretty girls smiling when they heard a whistle, something was still missing. And I couldn't imagine what it was until I heard the children crying. It was evening, and a little bird flew above the rooftops. A funny-looking, sunny-looking kind of a bird. And his song was the lullaby. And when the children heard the soft, quiet slumber song, they went to sleep and dreamed about ice cream cones and puppy dogs and circus clowns. "And that, Wendy," said Grandfather, and then he stopped. Wendy was asleep, and the people painted on the wallpaper, and Gobo, who was an elephant. Grandfather smiled and closed his eyes. And then a strange thing happened. He seemed to be hearing voices. Voices across the centuries. Beethoven and Stradivarius and Bach and Pan the Piper. And all the others who had found ways of bringing sound out of wood and wind. He heard them, and he knew all their voices, which was strange, because all they said was, "So you invented music, huh?" Grandfather smiled again. "Well," she asked for a story.